Hey kiddos, welcome back to SELFWIFE, the podcast where I practice centering myself in my own life for the first time in my life and talk to you about it, talk to you about the trials and tribulations of learning to do that halfway through your life. I just read a tweet yesterday, or a thread probably is more likely, that said something about how the average lifespan is 78. So middle-aged is late 30s. And they just don't let people retire until they're 55 and 60 just because obviously our government exists to create and keep more workers. And my dad just turned 78 and he's having a hard time, as you know, and we are bracing for the day. And I just turned 39. So in another year, I'll be halfway through my life, give or take. I mean, I could live my 80s through my 90s. I could live to 100. Who knows? But with the way that the world is looking, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the earth died before I turned 85. And I don't currently have huge plans for my 80s through my 90s, although Norman Lear just really did it right up until the end. Actually, how old was he when he passed? He just died last December at 101 years old. And as far as I know, he was writing and working up until the end. I could do something like that, you know, but I don't have big aspirations of achieving things in my 80s. So I have to start thinking of my life as being half over, which is actually fine. When I think about my past, the word over gives me just so much, peace because I'm so thrilled that it's over. But something I've been thinking about recently is how, since that's the case, and since the first half of my life has been mired in so much bullshit and is the reason that I left and have been in total isolation for a year now, it's because I just can't handle the bullshit anymore. I can't handle the chaos. I can't handle the stress. I can't handle people with unchecked and unmedicated personality disorders. I also can't handle people who go to therapy but use it as a shield against criticism for their behavior. And the thing that they're shielding, the behavior that they're shielding, is dangerous and destructive personality disorder. I can't give my own well-being up for my career anymore. I can't ignore my gut feelings anymore. I can't willingly put myself in stressful environments where people are emotionally abusive or psychologically abusive. I basically, like, every single thing about how my life used to be, I can't do it anymore. And I've known this for a while. It's the whole SELFWIFE thing that I've been focusing on in the last couple of years. But when I read that tweet, it really kind of solidified it for me. Like, there's a line down the middle of my life that I drew, I would say, when I left Los Angeles. I left Los Angeles and created boundaries for the first time, and tapped into my feelings and what I actually wanted. And this microphone just is slowly migrating away from me. Basically, everything that I've put in place in my own life and or cut off, removed out of my own life in the past 2 years, the goal is for it to set me up for the rest of my life to be enjoyable, safe, peaceful, creative. I still want to have experiences, and I want to be inspired, and I want to be stimulated, but I won't accept those experiences if they're attached to chaos, if they're attached to dishonesty, if they make me ignore my intuition. I used to have a lot of relationships with a lot of people in my life, starting with my parents, who set me up for disaster in every possible way, desensitized me to every form of danger, and also both have myriad unchecked personality disorders, obviously undiagnosed. They don't believe in doctors. They both, just believe if you pray, God makes you perfect. And then once God makes you perfect, well, the good news is you never have to self-reflect again because God made you perfect, and they are both monsters in their own right. And so I have just always been surrounded by and felt very like having monstrously chaotic, cruel, punitive, dangerous people in my life has just been a reality since day one. And unlearning having space for that is what I'm working on now, because I am over it. I have done enough self-work and healing to know now that that's not what I bring into other people's lives, and I don't have to accept it. Even if I understand somebody's bad behavior, doesn't mean it works for me. I can understand your wounds that are causing you to act out, and I don't care anymore. You can do that over there. It's no longer a part of my life. I want to enjoy my life. And so that's basically my whole focus. I also have removed a lot of stress from my life because of my dad's health situation and how that is an ongoing stressful situation. And the bright side in that, what I'm learning is that, like, basically how stressful his situation is and how it's life or death, and how the death is constantly looming, and none of us have any control over it, and none of us have any idea how close he is to the end, and it always seems like it's the end and then it's not. And I don't know if I shared this on this podcast, but I found out that his mom did this exact same thing for 10 years, to the point where she would be in the hospital. The doctors and the nurses would say, this is it. Go ahead and inform the family. They can come say goodbye. Family would buy plane tickets, fly in from all over. And upon landing, they would hear she had been discharged from the hospital. She's feeling better. False alarm. Happened over and over and over again for 10 years. I just found that out from my dad's sister, who I'm now close to for the very first time in my life because of his health issues. She did this for 10 years. So, for the first couple years of the situation with my dad, we were all bracing for him to die constantly because he would have near-death experiences. And we were like, okay, this is it. And then it just hasn't been it. And it's been we're pulling our hair out, trying to get a hold on what's real and what isn't, because he blocks us from accessing his medical records and stuff. I've talked about this extensively, probably too extensively for your liking. It's not a fun topic for anyone involved. But when I heard that, I started to really go, okay, I need to broaden my mind around this. It's less of, okay, this is it. And it's more of, this could be our normal, our new normal for the next decade. I don't think it'll last that long, but it did with his mom. And here's the thing. They're not blood related. My dad's adopted. Is that something that behaviorally can be passed down? I don't know. All I know is that his mom is another example of somebody who did this exact same thing for 10 years. So, we've really tried to just make more space in our heads and hearts for it. And what it's really required me to do is make more space in my life. And that space has been made by eliminating chaotic people from my life. Up until 2 years ago, I had several close relationships with several people who did not mind ruining my day, week, month with an untimely text message with terrible news, a phone call with terrible news, centering themselves on my birthday and causing chaos that I would have to calm on my birthday, or calling me when they know I'm on a holiday vacation with friends, which is something that I rarely get to go on, and texting nonstop emergencies, asking for me to take time out of my vacation to soothe whatever's coming up for them. This caretaker role, I was put in it against my will as a kid, but I just really took it on, and it became my entire life. It was my career. It was definitely my relationship with both of my parents, still is with my dad. My mom I no longer speak to. And of course, if, somebody presented themselves to me as an option for a friend and they were very low functioning or were emotionally chaotic or whatever, I really just took that on. I would clock it, but be like, yeah, that's my job though, is to hold space for people who are this way. And I just ran out of space because of what was happening with my dad. And I'm so glad that I ran out of space, because I will say, the way I used to live my life and the types of people that I would surround myself with, and the environments that I've felt were very normal to me, that were just normal to me and had always been normalized, my stomach was dropping and flipping several times a day based on some cruel thing somebody would say, some drama somebody would try to start, some lie somebody would tell, some text message I would get, or, some of the examples I just gave, my stomach dropping and my heart racing out of just like pain and anxiety and being thrown off and like my ears ringing and my world closing in. That was a regular part of my life. Has been since I was a kid. I actually have these flashbacks of this like very specific type of panic attack. I now am able to call it that. But as a kid, I didn't know what it was. It would just, the sound would become distorted and my eyes would go tunnel vision. And if there was somebody in the space, their body would get really small and their head would get really big. And all I could hear was like, wom, wom. And it was like this, it was also like a physical feeling. I remember that sensation, you know, since childhood. That kind of stuff is just like your body having an adverse reaction to somebody's behavior was just life. I didn't know that that wasn't just life. And I have made countless decisions to make sure that that's not just life for me anymore. And it's kind of great. Like basically, if I have a connection these days with somebody who misuses it and drops a bomb into my life midday, no warning, either with no concern for what I'm in the middle of or what's going on in my life or if I have capacity for it, or specifically doing it to ruin a good time I might be having, to ruin a birthday of mine. Like, do you know how many people I've had in my life who have just willingly, willfully, and flagrantly ruined my birthdays year after year after year? It's happened a lot, okay? And I'm not doing it anymore. And I gave up everything in order to center my peace. And I'm feeling semblances of peace now. They are disrupted frequently by my dad and his medical chaos. But since I've emptied my life of so much other stress, like I make room for that. I know that and Donna and I, my stepmom and I, are handling it like champs. Honestly, we both deserve, I don't know, a Nobel Peace Prize for dealing with this man the way that we do, so lovingly, so calmly, so patiently, while he does not return those behaviors 100% of the time. He really tries with me more so than with her, unfortunately. My dad is not a good partner to women. He is not. And he shows me, for the most part, a different side of himself. But knowing that and talking to Donna at length about her experiences with him, which are coming up more and more now, it's like she's left him, but she's really processing the stuff that he's put her through and the abuse, okay, that he put her through for 25 years. I think they were married before she left him. And it almost makes the way that he treats me and the face he puts on for me feel like sinister or something. It doesn't feel sinister, but it's just like, I mean, I appreciate that he tries to give me his best self. I think he wants to be a good dad. He wants to be seen as a good dad, but it feels, at least false or a bit dishonest, knowing that like she can have a phone call with him that is horrifically abusive. And then 5 minutes later, I can have a phone call with him where he's very patient and calm and kind. I don't like that, And Donna and I are both unlearning abuse, unlearning making space for being mistreated. That, if you were raised by abuse as well, that space is made for you. Your programming teaches you to feel that abuse is normal. You absolutely believe that you deserve it because you're told that you do. You're told that every single punishment, all of the torment and stuff that your parents are putting you through is because you deserve it. And, you move through life feeling like you deserve the absolute worst from people because that's what your parents gave you every day. And they taught you that it was because of you that they were angry. It was because of you they were punishing you. It was because of you they were taking away all your privileges. It was because of you that you weren't allowed to have fun, And if you dealt with fundamentalist Christianity and like what we now call Christian nationalism and, evangelicalism and all of that, like it's really, really hard to unlearn that. It's really hard to like denormalize that. And that's what my whole life is about. So basically, I just want to do a little diary episode today. I had a really hard last couple of days because of dad stuff, but I'm snapping myself out of it today and I'm just getting back on track. And I mostly just wanted to share a couple of things that I'm doing to be a self-wife and that I feel really good about and that I feel like are now foundational parts of my life moving forward. And I've talked about a lot of these things, but the things that are really bringing me peace and joy and fulfillment right now in my life. Now, mind you, I've been here in Nevada in this house for about a year now. I came here last summer. I don't see anybody here for most of it. I have barely communicated with anyone. My nervous system was so shot. I had to take the text messaging app off of my phone. I couldn't handle being contacted by anyone. A lot of you know I changed my phone number a couple years ago. I've only been able to like give it to a couple people every few months if I feel like I'm able to handle like a text message popping up. But like receiving text messages had started to trigger my PTSD. I have been wiping the slate clean so that I can tune into who I really am and what I'm really feeling. And some things that I've learned that really make me feel good as a person that I've never been able to prioritize before. The last time I lived alone was when I was teaching and I had a studio apartment in Glendale, but I was hardly ever there. I was mostly in the classroom. My job was my life, and I was there a little bit on the weekends, but I've never nested like this. I've never like really just spent time with myself before, ever. I've never been in an environment alone while also in a place in my life where I don't have any authoritarian dictator figure of authority in my life tearing me to shreds or telling me what to do. I've never had that before until now. Like everyone who treated me that way, including my mom, has been eliminated from my life. There's truly nobody around to tell me that everything I do is wrong and bad and worthless and stupid and that I need to be better and that this person's doing it better. Like for the first time ever, I don't have anyone like that in my life. And it's wild to just exist. And because I've also, prior to this solitude, done so much work on unlearning the self-hatred that I was taught directly and then learning how to love myself, I am able to be in this silence with myself in a place of love and self-acceptance. Like I'm not replacing those voices with my own self-critique at all. I'm really not. I really have just been working on giving myself a lot of credit for all the shit I've handled since I arrived on this planet and all the grace with which I've handled it. I'm really honestly proud of myself. The shit that has like been put on my plate, piled onto my plate has been really difficult. And I've just handled it all. I work on metabolizing it and turning it into either education for others or, I try to rewrite the negative programming just so that I can have a little bit better time. And I'm proud of myself for that. Not everybody metabolizes the shit I've been through and tries to use it for good. So I'm proud of myself. I just like give myself props these days and it feels really great. And I want to encourage you to do the same. I don't like how this keeps moving. I really don't like it. So just a couple these are like small basic things, but they feel really big to me. Another thing I want to say, this has been on my mind a lot lately. If you grew up in toxicity, chaos, narcissistic abuse, religious abuse, trauma, child abuse, if you grew up in things like that, the basics are going to be really hard for you because you can't focus on the small things when these big chaotic things are happening to you and around you all the time. Your body no longer registers the small basic things. You have to focus on really big outsized issues. You have to basically deal with adult-sized issues, as a child, and it warps your ability to just tune into the basics or prioritize the basics. And so I'm still having to learn so many basics in my life. And one of those basics, which I've talked a lot about, is I'm educating myself about nutrition. I'm always reading a book or listening to an audiobook about nutrition. The one I'm listening to right now is called Eat Smarter. Every day I listen to a little bit more and learn something new and then implement it the very next day. And that feels really good. And I cook all of my meals with nutrition at the center. And that's another thing. I cook all of my meals. I've talked about that, but I do not eat out anymore and I don't order food. I maybe order food once a month and that'll usually be a cheeseburger, but I cook everything. I eat, there's nothing that I eat these days other than that occasional ordering that isn't made from my hands with ingredients that I've picked out that are based on my new knowledge of nutrition and what the body needs. And I know that I will just keep going with these patterns and then I'll, get healthier and healthier. I was going to say it's never too late to start. Probably, not that it's too late, but obviously, children should be given extensive nutritional, we should all be given extensive knowledge about our bodies and how to make them run properly. I'm sure I learned some of that stuff in school. I was dissociated for most of my life. I don't remember any of that shit. And I was raised on frozen food and fast food, nary a vegetable or fruit in sight. And then we did the Gwen Shamblin Weight on Workshop thing. So not only was I eating fast food and frozen food, I was taking 2 bites of it. That was my nutrition. Okay. So I was not healthy. Has that done damage to my body? Time will tell. I just got blood work done recently and everything seemed mostly okay. Nothing too major. There was I had a lot of potassium in my system, but we determined it was because I had drank Pedialyte the night before, because this was when I was in LA and it was my birthday. So I was drinking wine, which is something that I also have really removed from my life. Since the beginning of the year, I've drank probably 5 separate times, on 5 separate weekends, and it's July. And that's a big deal for me because I used to drink a lot more frequently. And I also used to use it as medicine. Absolutely. Especially with this stuff with my dad. I would just be like, oh, well, at least this weekend I can just start making martinis midday and feel something better than this pain that way. And I just cut that out too. I am just really working on healthily metabolizing life and then healthily metabolizing food. Apologize for those sentences. Healthily metabolizing is the clunkiest way to possibly say it. But another thing that I'm really focusing on is having the right tools, which is a huge concept for me in my life. I grew up in a makeshift house. My parents divorced. Their divorce started when I was 5. So we lost everything when I was 5 and we struggled from that point on. And so when you struggle financially, you often don't have the right tools and you MacGyver things together to get them to work. That's kind of been my whole life. Well, we can't afford the real thing. Let's figure out a way to make it work ourselves. And I have been trying to unlearn that a little bit. So for instance, okay, this is one of the things that I do every week that makes me feel good and capable and healthy and it's good for me. I get this gunpowder green tea, organic, and I brew it at the start of a week. And I use this little brewer. So you pour it in here and it brews, and then it stays in there until you put it on top of another receptacle. And then the way that it's structured is it pushes it up and then it lets the tea fall out. And I fill up this pitcher of green tea. This makes me feel so good. This is a basic thing that makes me feel so capable though. I am being such a good self-wife by doing this for myself at the start of every week. And I put it in this little pitcher and then I drink this every day because green tea is really good for you. And I usually make it pretty strong and then I water it down throughout the week. And before I was doing this, I didn't have a pitcher. So I found something that was here, which was a big vase, a big unused vase in the cupboard. And I rinsed that out and I was using that for the green tea for I don't know, a few months because whatever, it's a receptacle, it holds it. This is very much me being like my dad in a way that I don't love. And I finally got to the point where I was you know what? I love myself enough to get a pitcher, one that I don't have to hold with both hands and position the cup, in the low down in the sink so that it barely spills. The whole vase thing was ridiculous, but it took a while to occur to me, I can get the right tools for this very easily and quickly. And I can just simplify this process just a little bit. And so for me, somebody who is just who is trying to unlearn being so whatever, I'll find something around here and make it work. I'll go with the flow. Beggars can't be choosers. I don't need the right tools. Now I'm telling myself I do need the right tools. And the right tools are so beautiful when you actually get the right tools. This comes up a lot with cooking. If you have a cheese grater that you have to hold weird, it's going to be very unpleasant to grate cheese. If you have a blender that doesn't fully work, you're going to hate making smoothies, if you have like pans that always burn shit, you're going to hate cooking. If you have a pot that's not big enough to boil pasta, you're going to feel like you messed up the pasta. Like having the right tools is so important. So, spend $10 more on getting the sharper knives. Well, knives are a pricey thing, but like you honestly, investing in something that is actually well made and, is going to do the job right and make it easier for you is a beautiful gift to give to yourself. Oh, my light just went out, so this might be unwatchable now, but I'm really into having the right tools recently. I also have glass straws, which I would say is an important right tool to have because I put lemon juice. This is another thing. I always have a big jar of lemon juice in the fridge to put in my water at all times. But because lemon is hard on your teeth, it's good to have a straw, and glass straws make drinking iced lemon water so luxurious that and I know a lot of people struggle with drinking enough water because water tastes bad on its own. You need to get a bottle of lemon juice, not that little lemon shaped one that tastes like chemicals, but like actual just straight up organic lemon juice, have it in the fridge, put it in your ice water, get a glass straw, drinking water, so luxurious and so good for your body. Oh, in the book last night in Eat Smarter, he says that you need to give yourself a good thing to do when you wake up is to give yourself an inner bath, which is just drink water first thing. I am not a water first thing person. I am a coffee first thing person. I know for years I would hear tons of women mostly say like, oh, I start the day with warm, lemon water. Could never be me for some reason. I don't want to drink warm lemon water in the morning. But the way he put it in the book when he called it an inner bath, I was like, you know what? I will take an inner bath. So I put it on my daily habits list last night. And then this morning I woke up and the first thing I drank was lemon water. These things make me feel good. Like they really do add to my sense of self, and knowing that I take care of myself, that I take good care of myself when nobody else is around is a really great feeling. Like knowing that I am able to prioritize myself the way that I am. I had to remove so much to even get to the place where I could think about myself. That's another thing. If you have trouble prioritizing yourself, I'm going to go ahead and guess that you're surrounded by people that don't allow you to, or that require all of your attention and energy, or you're in a field that doesn't allow you to. When I decided to retire from public school teaching in 2016, it was a very difficult decision. I made it over the course of probably 2 or 3 years. I had started thinking like, I'm not sure if I can handle this public school system anymore. It's so broken and it was bothering me so much. And I felt like I was part of the problem, not part of the solution. And anytime I would try to come up with something that I thought that seemed like a solution for the myriad problems in the public school system, I was stopped in my tracks. I just didn't feel like I could. There were a lot of reasons. I knew I deserved more money for the amount of work that I was doing. It is disgusting how little teachers make and how much education is required. It's such a high skill level position, especially teaching students with special needs. I think there might be a common consensus that that's an easier job. It is so much harder. Your skill set has to be so much higher because you're dealing with behavioral issues of varying degrees that come up in a different form in every single person. And you have to be able to handle all of them simultaneously all day, every day, on top of teaching curriculum. You don't get all of your students are still required to meet curriculum standards. And also you're having to do a lot of incentive-based work and a lot of behavioral work. And it's such a high skill level job, and special ed teachers are so valuable. The things that they deal with in those classrooms and the things that they help overcome in those classrooms are truly so important. And they're shown absolutely no respect salary wise. And, I've talked about this before because I'll never get over it, but I paid an $800 a month student loan payment every month when I was teaching for 12 years, $800 a month on top of my bills and with my incredibly low salary. So I had no money ever. And an $800 a month student loan payment, that's like an extra rent payment that could have, being able to have that money or save that money would have changed my life instead of having to just give it away to this endless hole of student loan debt that I was required to go into in the exact way I was required to go into it by my mom, who did want to set me up for failure in that way, along with every other area of life that she put me on wrong paths. But, I retired after 12 years and I hadn't even come close to paying down, the debt that I was in. I don't remember how much it was originally, but somewhere between like 60 and 80 grand, I'm putting myself into that amount of debt when I'm in my early 20s, being told by my mom, this is what you have to do. No, I'm not co-signing for you. If you died, I owe that money. Absolutely not. I'm not helping you with this. This is your responsibility. And this is what everyone has to do. And you just have to deal with it. And then when I would struggle with the low income and the high, bills, just like my bills and my income were basically neck and neck, then I was also told by my mom that was my fault. And that the only reason I struggled with money is because I didn't budget, which was just not true. And so I had a lot, I basically like every area of my life was me, my worth not being acknowledged. I also didn't know my own worth. I was being taken advantage of. I was being poorly treated. I was calming chaos. I was doing a lot of work, really good work too, and having nothing to show for it in my own life. And, so like these patterns had woven their way into every aspect of my being. Now, this is not to say that because I left LA and I've been in solitude for a year and all that like I did it, I broke all the patterns and everything's great now. I still struggle in basically every area of life. I struggle a lot, most in relationships, romantic relationships. That's why I've taken them off the table. I can imagine desiring it again, but I don't desire it again right now. I could see it changing well into the future. Maybe. Especially if I get out of America. I feel like I would love to meet people just in different areas of the world and see what they're up to. So, I really struggle in that area. I really struggle with friendships, my judgment. I really struggle with that. I struggle with not being a savior. I struggle with giving people too many chances. I struggle with letting people mistreat me and literally not only excusing their behavior, but telling them like, I understand that you did this because of this other thing that happened to you. And I understand that you don't understand that that's why you hurt me. And I know you didn't mean to. And because I know where it's coming from, like, I forgive you. Like, and let me help you treat me better. That was me. I've been a sucker my whole life. And I've had to unlearn that, and the thing is, like, when you start to unlearn it and you start to set boundaries in your friendships where boundaries have never existed before, where people had unfettered access to you just constantly 24/7 with whatever they needed and whatever they wanted, they expected you to meet their needs and you would, like, that's a hard thing to unlearn and people get pissed. Like when you give everything to people and there are no boundaries, certain types of people really obviously thrive on that, and they're not going to like it when those privileges are revoked. And the aftermath of that, like the aftershocks of making changes in your friendships, continue. And I'm still experiencing it, but what I do now is I just I focus on how I'm feeling. And honestly, like a big telltale sign for me that somebody's not safe is that my communication with them makes my heart race, makes my stomach sink, makes me angry. And like, if I'm like going over things that you've said in my mind and feeling anger about them and feeling unresolved, and if you're taking up like headspace in a negative way, not a relationship I need in my life, that simple. Like, I don't have room for it anymore. I won't make room for it anymore. I know I don't deserve it. And like, at this point, I have no problem being like, you're not allowed to treat me that way, and watching them tantrum about it and then never speaking to them again. Like there is a certain, like, you've got to be this tall to ride. There's a certain set of standards that I need to see from another person to even engage with them in a relational way. That's so new. And these are things that, like, I will be challenged to hold on to going forward as my scenery continues to change, as my jobs continue to change, as people in my life continue to change. Like, these are my new, these are the things I'm focusing on, but in no way have I mastered them. They're all very new to me, but they are the requirements because I now want to live the second half of my life recovering from the first half. I no longer want to enter into situations that I'm going to have to escape from in 2 years. I no longer want to enter into relationships with people that make me feel unsafe, that prove to me that they're unsafe. I don't want to have to run away from things anymore. I don't want to have to protect myself from my own life. If I'm willingly going into an environment, it's not going to require me to protect myself when I'm in that environment. Like, just the answer is no. And I'm willing to sacrifice, I guess, basically everything in order to center these needs. Like, I gave up my city. I gave up my life as I knew it. I sold my car. I quit my job. I left everything that I had built and everything that I knew because I realized that I was building things on unstable foundation and I needed to start over. And house sitting opportunities came up for me and have made this shift possible for me. This last year that I've spent being a self-wife, first and foremost, will change the rest of my life. I know it. I've never been able to experience the safety and the peace of solitude before. I've never been able to experience a life that isn't full of people who are plotting on how they can ruin my day, and it's not even necessarily personal. These are just chaotic people. They ruin everyone's day, you know? Like, I don't feel that I've been personally targeted. I think I've chosen specific types of people because they remind me of my parents. And, you know, my dad isn't he's not like malignant like my mom is, but my mom loves to watch me suffer. She loves to strip me of joy. She loves to dangle joy and then snatch it away. She loves when I'm crying. She loves when I'm broken, and she loves to rub it in. If I'm crying and broken and I tell her about it, she loves to be like, wow, sucks for you. If you were a Christian, you know this wouldn't happen. She tried to tell me that if I was a Christian, I wouldn't get flat tires, because one time I called her with a flat tire and just waiting for AAA, not even calling for her help. Just like, I got a flat tire. Hey, waiting on the beach. What are you up to? Oh, wow. That's a bummer for you. You know, I don't get flat tires because I'm a Christian. You should think about that. And that's how she talks. Anyway, I don't speak to her anymore. She's awful. But, you know, like, if you have a parent in your life that treats you like that, is condescending to you, always blames you for having a flat tire, and always has an agenda, and every single thing that they say to you is in service of that agenda. In my mom's case, it's like getting me back into the fold of Christianity. She's a salesperson for Jesus. First and foremost, that's everything she does, is like she's trying to sell Jesus to people. But she does it in threatening ways, in punitive ways, in mocking ways, and in superiority ways of like, wow, that's a real bummer. I just simply don't struggle that way. Huh? Like, that whole demeanor. If you have a parent like that, cut them off. I mean, go ahead and try to use all the tricks up your sleeve, read about how to communicate with narcissists, like do everything in your power so that you can feel like you tried. And then when they give you evidence after evidence after evidence that nothing you do is ever going to work or make anything better, just cut them off. I'm such an advocate for it. It's not an easy decision, and I don't say that to people that it doesn't apply to, but if you're listening to this and you feel that applies to you, you can start building up the courage to do so, you know? Like, I have my mom and stepdad blocked. They have tried to contact me. They still do. I ignore all of it. I'm not willing to entertain anything coming from them. It would have to take a complete shift in the way that they communicate with me. They would have to take responsibility, take accountability, and they would have to agree to my boundaries, which is not to proselytize to me and respect that I have different spiritual beliefs than them, and to no longer shove Jesus down my throat at every second and constantly tell me that I'm going to hell no matter what we're talking about. I asked for that. I was told no. I was told they would never abide by that, because since they have access to ultimate truth, in their words, it is their God-given right to continue to try to get me to see that they have ultimate truth. They completely ignore the fact that I was a Christian. I was a Christian right along with them, in the same house, in the same church, for 22 years of my life. I know exactly what it is that I'm giving up. Now, I cut her off in 2020. It's 2024. I still feel I've never once doubted it. I've never once thought about reaching out to her. Every time I think about the fact that I no longer have to receive her abuse, I feel so at peace and so grateful that I'm an adult now, and I actually do get to make that decision, and I actually do get to say, I don't keep people in my life who treat me the way that you do. That sentence has helped me really weed out some dangerous people from my life. There are several people who fall under that sort of like, there are several people who I have removed from my life under that awareness that I have now. I do not keep people in my life who treat me the way that they do. It's true for my mom. It's true for my aunt. It's true for several family members on my mom's side. It's true for former friends, and it's true for former partners, romantic partners. And it's true for former coworkers. It's true for former bosses. Like, I have those standards now, and it feels so great. These are basics: feeding yourself well, understanding your body, being able to sit with yourself and listen to your emotions, drinking green tea, cooking, grounding on the grass, taking care of your skin, like these are small foundational basics that are really big for people who weren't taught them and who grew up in chaos. And so I encourage you to find your own basics and really tap into the basics and recognize like how important the basics are, and find the right tools. That's a basic thing that's like going to make your life so much better. If you have some makeshift, broken piece of shit, something that's like kind of doing the job you need it to do, but not really, focus on investing in the right tools. It really is a gift for yourself. Again, it comes up a lot with kitchen appliances. Oh, I'm going to show you one other thing, and then I think that'll be it for this week. I got these Shiatsu massage shoes, and it has all of the parts of like the organs that it's helping by massaging with these little pokey things. You can get them on Amazon. I'm sorry, I don't have a car. I do rely on Amazon. I cannot be a good influence in that way, in that department. But what I thought was really cool about these is that when I first got them, the first couple days, I put them on. The first day I put them on, it was so painful. And I maybe could only keep them on for like 10 minutes, but like every part of the bottom of my foot was in a significant amount of pain. Like I was like, when I was taking steps. And then the next day, painful, probably in just the same way. The third day, way less painful, and I could wear them for, I would say, about twice the time. And now I truly just wear them as sandals like throughout the day, and I feel nothing. And that feels like progress. I know that they're massaging my little feet and helping with my with the functionality of my internal organs. And so is my inner bath that I give to those organs first thing in the morning. The author of the book I'm reading, let me see his name. His name is Sean something. Eat Smarter, Sean Stevenson. I highly recommend this book, and I highly recommend the audiobook version. He's very engaging. He's got an engaging style of reading and an engaging voice, and the book is really engaging too. It's not just like scientific and like straightforward information. He makes it fun. And he gives you almost like mnemonic devices on how to memorize some of the information he's giving you, or little like story structures that he fits the nutrition info into to make it like more accessible. But one of the things he said was that when you're sleeping, all of your internal organs are doing so much work, like processing that day and getting your body ready for the next day. And they're working so hard for you overnight, and water really helps them work. And, he was also encouraging, like he was emphasizing the importance of drinking enough water. He said, basically take how much you weigh, cut it in half, that number in half, and then that's how many ounces of water you should ideally be drinking per day. And he said, because your organs are working so hard as you're sleeping, when you wake up in the morning, give them an inner bath, and it just helps them do their job. And so, I don't know, just the idea of the choices that I'm making being really good for me, rather than it's just a fleeting feeling of pleasure, or it just tastes good, or it's some sort of an escape. The choices I'm making now in my life, I'm wanting them to ground me more into myself, to bring me back to myself more, to tune into myself more. No more escaping. Every once in a while, you can escape, and I will still escape. I think we all need that. But tuning into my body and what it needs, and centering myself in my own life for the very first time is the goal. So I want to encourage you to focus on some basics and remind yourself that the basics are really important, and our relationship with ourselves is more important than ever. Like, The world is rough. The world is on fire. Things are getting worse every day. You really want to be able to at least feel solid in yourself. You want to be able to spend time with yourself. I encourage you to try to get used to silence. Just little doses of silence. You don't even have to meditate if that's too much. Try just sitting in silence as a step toward meditation. Can you even do that? Like allow your thoughts to come up, maybe write them down, see what it is that your thoughts are actually trying to tell you. There's a reason you're replaying things in your mind. There might be something you need to express. There might be something you need to say to somebody so that you can actually start to heal and move on. Like I see a lot of what I'm doing as like cleaning the pipes. I was so jammed up with so much toxicity and I had to kind of handle one thing at a time. And now I'll move through one situation with one person. And then once that's cleared, like the next thing comes up in order to be cleared, because I'm like clearing a lot of stuff. Okay. And I encourage you to do the same. I think also too, if you are a person, I think it's a way that all of us can afford luxury, is carving out time just for you and you, giving your body what it needs. That's a luxury. And it's one that I have fought hard to be able to prioritize, and that it's very new for me. And just want to reiterate, being a self-wife does not mean that you no longer give to others and you no longer care about other people. I don't want anybody to misinterpret it or use it that way. This is mostly for people who have never prioritized their feelings and have always put yourself last and prioritized other people who never had your well-being in mind. It's time for you to prioritize yourself. Give to yourself what you have so freely always given away to everybody else. You should get to benefit from your own positive traits. Something that I love to repeat on this show. I think that's it for this week. I just wanted to talk about some positive stuff and some growth, because I'm seeing like videos and photos pop up from this time last year. And I just remember where I was emotionally at that time. And I'm getting better. I'm better now in a lot of ways. I've learned a lot. I've grown a lot. I've deprioritized a lot of chaos. And I know that the time I'm taking on myself and the time I'm spending on myself is worth it, and is paying off and will continue to pay off. And so, start now, regardless of if you think it's too late. Just like start. You may as well start now. If you don't start now, it only gets later. And if this show or anything I say during these episodes ever inspires you to even start like one other positive habit, it really fuels me to hear about that. So message me, let me know. The times when I've gotten messages from friends and people I've never met alike who say, I was doing this today and I was like, I'm such a self-wife. That makes me so happy, because I do want to share these things. I know that they're important, and I know that they're especially important for people that they're hard for. So prioritize yourself, be a wife to yourself, and self-wife is genderless. Don't worry. Okay, you can follow the show on Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music. If you subscribe, you will get a notification every time there's a new episode. And you can review it on those platforms if you'd like. I would love to read the reviews. Again, I just like feedback. Feedback is my fuel. It's kind of the only fuel other than, my own desire. But my connective feedback with you guys is just like, if you even simply say like, I've been listening, I've been enjoying it, that fuels me and it feels really nice. So thanks for listening. Lovingly center yourself in your own life, and you will be able to give to others in a more honest and in a healthy and balanced way once you do really care for yourself first. And I believe that everybody deserves it. And I believe that it's necessary for everyone, though I know our society is not built in a way that makes it possible, and for most of my life, it has not been possible for me. And now I'm just like, I'm demanding it, and opportunities for me to love myself are rising up and meeting me. And so that reinforces that I know that this is the right thing for me, and that I am ushering in a new type of life, and that the second half of my life is going to be so much better than the first half, and is going to be about my own agency and my own intuition and my own skills and my own light, and not being surrounded by people who want to dull my light or dim my light or keep me back or stop me or silence me or tear me to shreds or take advantage of me or any of that. Like, not doing it anymore. I'm not doing it anymore. And I don't want you to do it anymore either. All right. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.